Hey, what's up guys, it's Junkie Reviews here. I'm back at you for another video. In this video we're going to be talking about the MSI GS75 and the specs, the prices, the accessories, and if it's something that you should be looking at for replacing your current device. So let's get right into it. So MSI is a brand that has always appealed to me because they make really high quality devices with a lot of power, which is of course good for gaming and for editing. So it's just a good bundle. And on their GS75, they have not skipped on that. So it has the same high quality and the same high performance. And then on top of that, it's super portable. It's not like an LG Gram, like it's not going to be pencil thin, but it's really thin for the specs that it has, and that's something that's really notable, and that's why it's my first quirk. It's just the portability, and that's something that I focus on a lot, and that's because you gotta have a powerful device, but on top of that it has to be portable, because there's no use in having a really powerful device that you can't take anywhere. That's not why you buy a laptop. So the second quirk is the 144Hz screen, and this is something that's always welcomed on a laptop. There's a lot of gaming laptops that have it now, and now we are coming out with 244Hz monitors, which I want to cover later on, but I digress. So in a nutshell, 144Hz monitors are just great to have on a laptop. It's also 1080p, and it doesn't have G-Sync, but I think that on laptops, G-Syncs have been increasingly getting worse, just because it raises the price too much, and it doesn't have as much benefit for that price gain. So yeah. The third thing would be that it has 3 USB-A's, 2 USB-C's, 1 supporting Thunderbolt 3, and it has your HDMI cable, it has your microphone and headphone jack, it has your Ethernet, it has your micro SD. It's basically everything that you want. It's just really good I/O. I don't know who made the executive decision to give this laptop such good I/O, but it's really good. The selection is really good. Going back to the screen, it does have a 17.3-inch screen, which is something that's not normal anymore. You don't see a lot of laptops with that big of a screen size, since now the 15-inch has kind of become the standard, but it really complements the 144Hz. And at first I was kind of skeptical about the 1080 on a 17-inch screen, but it works really fine. It's really great. So something that I thought about when I first looked at the device is, why would I buy this instead of a GS65? And the reason is because it has the RTX 2080 Max Q. And you might think that's not a big difference, because it's oh yeah, it's just Nvidia's new lineup. But it actually makes a big difference, because for one, it just allows it to be a lot more powerful because of the cooling capabilities. So the laptop was able to remain as light as it was while still having an insane amount of power. So it's I think it's a 20% increase over last year's, and then it allows you to have the 1080 Max Q, which you couldn't have on last year's. It just would be way too hot. So you're not gonna have to carry around something like the Titron, which is carrying a tank. It's you're going into warfare with the Titron. So yeah, you don't need the Titron anymore. This is just really good to have as on a laptop. So now that we're done with the quirks, let's get into the specs, and then just my overall thoughts and verdict, and then we'll finish the video there. Just a quick disclaimer, this whole spec section is going to be talking about the highest spec that you can get on the GS75. I will cover the other different specs, but I want to base the highest specs as the standard. So let's get right into that. So of course I would say that the main thing and the most important thing of these specs is the RTX 2080, and it's going to be your driving factor for upgrading from your GS65. I think that the GS65 is a fine product, but I think that the GS75 just has that cutting edge that you really need for a lot of the new games. It might not have been, it's not as useful right now as it will be soon, because soon the Adobe Suite will have RTX support, and more games will start using all the special features that the RTX has with it. But not a lot of apps and software are not making enough use of this tech yet, but it will soon come out, and that's why I think that the GS75 is really a good upgrade. So that's my mini rant on the RTX 1080 Max Q, but that's just one of the things in the specs. Let's talk about everything else, because this laptop has a lot to offer in other different areas. So for your processor, you're gonna have an Intel i7-8700H, which is one of the best processors you can have on a laptop right now, so that's really good. Then you have 32 gigs of RAM, and that's DDR4, and then you have 256 gigs of NVMe on your SSD, which is really good. Just really solid specs, like exactly what you would want on a high-end laptop. The screen, as I said before, is 144 Hz, 1080p, and it has 3 milliseconds of response time, which is something that's comparable to a BenQ monitor, so that's really good. The I/O, as I said before, is very solid. It has 3 USB-A's, 2 USB-C's, 1 supporting Thunderbolt 3, and the HDMI can support 4K 60 frames per second, which is great. It has a micro SD card reader instead of an SD card reader, which is odd. I think that they should have definitely, and do have the space to fit a regular SD card reader, so that was a weird design choice, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the I/O is already so great. It's not like it's missing like 2 USB-C's and only has like 2 USB-A's. It has really good I/O, so that's something that's definitely not going to be a deal breaker. So that's it for specs. Let's move on to my final verdict and just final thoughts before I leave the video. So yeah, let's get right into that. So really quick, before I even give my final verdict, I do want to do a mini recaps of the pros and cons, because that's normally what I do. So let's get right into it. So first pro, it has great portability while still maintaining the high amount of power that the MSI is normally associated with. So that's great. 2, it has great I/O, so you're gonna be definitely not having to worry about a lot of stuff with your I/O. Third is the screen. It has a 144 Hz screen, which is something that's always notable on a gaming laptop because not all of them have it. So when they do have it, it's really good too, and it really takes advantage of the RTX, which would be my fourth pro. That this computer does have RTX, so still remaining to be a thin and light. So yeah, that's always really good. So those two pair really good and just bump up the device that much more. My fifth would be that the device stays relatively cool, especially for having a 2080 Max Q. It's just ridiculous, like compared to how light it is. It's really good. So yeah, cooling is really good on this device. It's really portable. It looks really nice. It's something that you can take anywhere, and it's just gonna like speak like just elite kind of thing. So yeah, those are my pros. My cons would be that it has a micro SD card reader instead of a regular SD card reader, because I didn't really see the necessity for that. They clearly had enough space on either side. The second con would be that, and this is looking through like an average consumer perspective, I think that $2,100 is a little bit too much for the entry price on this device. The max would be $3,000, and I think that the $3,000 is also a lot, because for an average consumer you could also just make your own build and then save some money. But this is a laptop and you're paying partially for the portability, so it is understandable, even though I don't agree with it to some extent. Those are my only 2 real cons on this device. Anything else would, in my opinion, be nitpicking, because this device is pretty good. So my final verdict would be a 9 out of 10. I don't think this device is perfect, but it's really close to being perfect just for a gaming laptop. And considering that it's a thin and light, that helps it that much more. But yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Make sure to check out my other content, because I have other videos coming up and videos that I've already made that I think you guys would enjoy. But yeah, peace. Lazy.